Hello and welcome to the show. We're so glad you guys are here. Now, I invite you all to travel back in time with me to hear a familiar story told from a new perspective. Many, if not all of us, know of the story of the Nativity the night Jesus was born over 2,000 years ago. We have all read how there was no room for them in the inn and his mother had to lay him in a manger. But who was this innkeeper? Have you ever wondered if he had a wife? What, if anything, did they see that sacred night? Sit back, relax, and imagine if you had been there that night as the innkeepers tell you their story. Enjoy the show.
Can you hear? There's a song on the air. There are legions of angels singing there. Can you hear? Will you follow the heavenly hymn? Will you come to the manger of Bethlehem?
Can you see, rising bright in the east, there's a beacon and promise of hope and peace. Will you follow it now as they followed it then? Will you come to the manger of Bethlehem?
Love wrapped in swaddling clothes.
Will you seek his face?
Will you feel his grace? Will you know your Lord and King? Will you come? Will you come to the Father's own Son? Will you follow your heart to the Holy One? All the voices of heaven will guide you to Him. Will you come? Will you come? Will you come? Come to the manger of Bethlehem. Will you come? Will you come? Will you come?
It was the busiest we had ever been. I remember it like it was yesterday. Our oh-so-wise Roman leader, Caesar Augustus, decreed every man return to the city of his ancestry to be counted for a census. Nothing like this had been done before. In preparation, we had stocked up on as much food and firewood as possible, and bought and borrowed every blanket and piece of bedding we could find. Pretty soon, the caravan started pouring into our little city of Bethlehem, and all the inns quickly filled up. All of our guest rooms were full, and we laid makeshift beds in the courtyard. There were beds wall to wall. I could barely walk through them to get to the door. People kept coming. We decided to open our own private living quarters, as small as they were, to a family with young children. We just felt it would not be safe for them out on the street. But that was it. We literally had no more room. Most of the guests came on foot, and some came with donkeys. Many travelers who came to be counted for the ridiculous census also took advantage of being so close to Jerusalem. They brought sacrificial lambs to take to the temple. We had a rather large stable, so we were able to house the animals out there. By that evening I was exhausted from the long, busy day, but my work was not yet finished. Just after dark, I went out to the stable and made sure all of the animals had fresh hay in their mangers for the evening. Every stable was full except one. I was sure that we would not be getting any more animals tonight. But for some reason, I set to work getting it ready anyway. I cleaned it out completely and laid fresh new straw. I then filled the manger with fresh hay. I returned to my inn, so tired I could barely walk a straight line. It had been quite a long day.
Excuse me, do you have any room? My wife and I have traveled far and we need somewhere to stay. Okay. Do you have any room? We've traveled far and my wife, she's very tired. We need somewhere to stay. Do you have even a corner to spare for us? We've traveled far. We need somewhere to rest. There's no room for us anywhere. Are you all right?
Yes, keep going.
When I had returned from the stable, I saw my wife had fallen asleep with her head lying on her arm as it was draped across the kitchen table. She was as exhausted as I was. She awoke with a start when there was a knock at the door. I thought, more travelers? At this hour? I almost didn't answer the door, but the knock came again, louder and more frantic.
Please, we need somewhere to stay.
I rushed to open the door so this newcomer would not wake the rest of our guests.
I'm sorry, we have no room.
But then I caught a glimpse of the young woman. She was sitting there rubbing her round belly and looking utterly exhausted. I realized then that she was very pregnant. She looked up at me, and there was something in her eyes, something about her face. She was so fair. Even though she was clearly very uncomfortable, I would say that she almost seemed to glow. You may think I was crazy, but that was it. There was almost a glow about her. I looked at her, and then at her husband. He also looked so weary, as if he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. All they had with them was a travel pack. I could tell they did not have much. I doubted they could afford to pay even if I did have room for them. I wished I could help them, though.
Wait, I have an idea.
Our stable. Suddenly I remembered the stable I had cleaned out and prepared.
We really have no room, but I have a stable here that I just laid fresh straw out, and it would be safe for you to stay there tonight, and it'd be a warm place. Would you
Yes.
care
yes.
to stay there?
Yes, please.
Please, thank you.
Please. Please, come in.
I showed them to the clean stall that had been prepared, and they settled in. They were both so grateful for my humble offering. It was clean, private, and safe. She thanked me quietly, and his relief and gratitude were abundant. Before leaving them, I introduced myself, and they told me their names were Joseph and Mary. They had traveled all the way from Nazareth. That is quite a trip for a pregnant woman. She looked like her baby would be born soon. If I were to guess, I would say a couple of weeks at the most. But what do I know? I told them I would send my wife out with some clean bedding and food soon. As I walked back to the inn, I realized the night was growing brighter, and I no longer needed the lantern I had left for them. Perhaps there was a full moon rising.
There was no room for God's own Son when Mary's child was born. Oh, who could bear to turn away the coming of the Lord? Could no one see divinity and find a quiet place, or recognize in Joseph's eyes the guardian of grace? Had I been in Bethlehem, would I have bid them stay and opened up my shuttered home to welcome them that day? Or would my fears and foolish cares have locked and barred my door, seeing only strangers there, cold and tired and poor? in me. Be no more a stranger here, but enter and abide. Stay with me eternally, blessed holy child.
While my husband had been running around all day, making beds in the courtyard, taking care of animals, and dealing with all of our guests, I had been in the kitchen most of the day. I was on my feet for hours preparing food for all of the hungry travelers. I had to feed them in shifts because I couldn't make enough food for everyone at once, and we didn't have enough dishes for everyone anyway. So all day, I cooked, served, cleaned up, washed the dishes, repeat, over and over again. It was completely exhausting. When the sun went down, so did everyone else, and I finally got some peace and quiet from all of the work and noise of the day. My husband went out to the stable to check on the animals. Not only did we have our own animals there, but also the traveling donkeys of our guests, and several sacrificial lambs were in our stable. When my husband left, and I was done cleaning up my kitchen and preparing for breakfast, I sat at the table for just a minute. I was more tired than I even realized, because the next thing I knew, I was awoken by the sound of someone banging on our door. My husband answered it, and then he left for a while with whoever it was. When he came back, he invited me outside so we could talk without waking our guests. He explained that it was a young couple named Joseph and Mary, and that the wife was large with child. He then told me he had them staying out in the stable. What? I couldn't believe that he would put them in the stable with the animals. How unsanitary. And how terribly uncomfortable for a pregnant woman. I was completely appalled by the insensitivity of my husband. But then, in a defensive and hushed voice, he explained that they had searched all over town and could not find any spare rooms. He said that he could not just let this young couple and their unborn child sleep on the streets. Then my husband told me how he had just cleaned out one of the stables and laid fresh, clean straw, and that is where he put them. Once he explained all of this, I understood. My indignation quickly melted, and I felt great appreciation for the thoughtfulness of my sweet husband. I felt so bad for them, though. He informed me that he let them know I would be down with more supplies. I gathered up the few blankets we had left, along with the little food I had left over, some bread, a little bit of dried fish, and a cup of lentils. With a basket in my arms, I made my way quickly to the stables. When I went out to give them the meager supplies, they were so grateful, and I wished I could have done more. I left them to get some rest and returned to the inn. When I returned, my husband was sleeping at the table in the same position I was in earlier. I let him rest, but I couldn't sleep. I sat and enjoyed the quiet stillness of the night. After sitting for a while, I realized it was getting quite warm inside with all the extra people sleeping in the courtyard. I walked over to the window and quietly opened the shutters to let in the cool night breeze. As I stood there in the open window, looking up at the stars, I saw something extraordinary. There was the brightest star I had ever seen, lighting up the sky and casting a glow on everything as bright as a full moon. I walked outside to bask in its light.
High above the weary world, amid the stars of heaven, to men of old a wondrous sign of peace and hope was given. A brighter star was kindled there to reign among the skies, to mark the way to Bethlehem and everlasting light. And high above the
I was staring in awe and wonder at this new celestial light when I heard her. That universally recognizable sound is both heart-wrenching and beautiful at the same time. I knew it was the young woman in our stable. Her cry of pain was followed immediately by the cry of a baby's first breath. Oh, that sweet sound! Tears filled my eyes as I thought of the scene unfolding in our stable. Oh, our stable! This poor child was born in a stable with farm animals. How awful, how uncomfortable, how unsanitary. And with no midwife or mother to help her? I just had to go down and see if I could help. I had to do something more. I ran back to the inn and quickly gathered what I could and what I would need to help the new mother. I hurried down to the stable, and as I came to the door, I saw Mary lying on her side with her baby all wrapped in a blanket. Joseph had his sleeves rolled up, and his hands were a mess from delivering the child. I went to work to do what I could to help this sweet little family. First, I took Joseph to the well and poured water over his hands as he washed them. We then both went back to the stable where his wife Mary and their new baby were. I carefully took the newborn from his mother and handed the baby to Joseph. Tears filled his eyes as he looked down at the newborn child he was holding. With the bucket of water, I took a clean, wet rag and cleaned Mary. I started by wiping the sweat from her face. I finished helping Mary before deciding to leave the new family. I went outside to enjoy the fresh, crisp night air. It must have been the excitement of the birth and the closeness of heaven with a newborn nearby, but I could have sworn I heard music on the wind. I looked back to the stable and saw Mary wrapping her newborn in swaddling clothes. My heart ached for the children I was never able to have. My sad longing was quickly replaced by an overwhelming feeling of peace and love I felt as I watched this new family. When Mary was finished wrapping her son, she handed him to Joseph. He was looking down at the child in his arms as Mary laid down next to them and quickly fell asleep. The poor woman, likely no older than 18, had just traveled for several days while pregnant and then had to deliver her child in a stable. She deserved the sleep that had so quickly overcome her.
Even now the host of heaven comes rejoicing down the skies. Even now the shepherds hasten to the manger where he lies. Hush the baby while his mother gathers strength for days to come. Joseph, guardian, like a father, cradle Mary's holy son. Weary journeys lie before her. In the quiet, give her rest. Let her starlit dreams restore her. Virgin Mother, heaven blessed. Gentle Joseph, till she wakens and her respite's work is done. Here is tender love unspoken, cradle Mary's holy son. Here is tender love unspoken, cradle Mary's holy son.
After a few minutes, I went back to the stable to check on them. Joseph asked if I would like to hold the baby. I was more than happy to oblige. He gently handed me the child and then went outside. I looked over at Mary. She was still sleeping peacefully. As I held this precious new baby in my hands, my heart was filled with an overwhelming sense of joy. I looked out into the peaceful night and that bright star that seemed to light up the whole sky. Something caught my eye, and I looked over and noticed Joseph by the well. He was praying. I didn't want to eavesdrop on the prayer of this new father. Before turning back to the stable, I did overhear him saying in a desperate and pleading voice,
Father, I will do my best to take care of thy son, but I'm worried that I won't be able to do enough. What if I make a mistake? Please, Father, help me.
I was overcome with emotion again as I thought of how many fathers throughout the history of the world have said very similar prayers. Being a new father is such a huge responsibility. I took comfort in knowing that Joseph was including his Father in heaven in raising this child. I leaned down and whispered to the baby in my arms,
Joseph seems like a good man. You're a very blessed child.
I returned to the quiet stable, holding this new baby. He was so beautiful. It is hard to explain, but when he looked up at me, it almost seemed like he recognized me. And somehow, I knew him. He fell asleep in my arms, and I watched him sleep with the soft glow of the lantern illuminating his face. I felt such an indescribable love for him that I just couldn't explain. A while later, he started to cry and acted hungry. I felt bad, but I had to wake Mary to feed him. As I handed Mary her new baby, I realized I did not even know his name.
Have you given the baby a name yet?
His name is Jesus.
Oh, that's lovely. Is it a family name?
His father chose it.
Mary seemed to be doing just fine with Jesus. She was a natural mother. It was as if she was born for this very purpose. As I watched this young mother caring for her newborn in this humble stable, my heart ached. I just wish I could do more. I decided to go back to the inn to see if I could find any spare blankets and cushions for her.
In the hustle of Bethlehem this night, we asked every innkeeper inside, weary travelers seeking refuge and reprieve. Doors closed, hearts indifferent, none would receive. But one innkeeper with kindness to spare looked upon us with compassion, aware of our weary souls and the burden we bore. He offered shelter through his stable door.
For your kindness, dear innkeeper and wife, for giving us respite from our weary life, for the warmth, the safety, and the peace. Our gratitude for your kindness shall not cease. Gentle innkeeper, offering a warm place, we found refuge in your humble space. No luxury, just a haven true, with the scent of sweet soft hay and a lantern's gentle hue. Your wife with a smile, loving and bright, eased my weary heart this starry night. With gentle hands she soothed my fears as I held my child amidst grateful tears. For your kindness, dear innkeeper and wife, for giving us respite from our weary life, for the warmth, the safety, and the peace. Our gratitude for your kindness shall not cease. refrain. Nestled in the soft warm hay, he gently sleeps as we pray. For your kindness, dear innkeeper and wife, for giving us respite from our weary life, for the warmth, the safety, and the peace. Our gratitude for your kindness shall not cease.
When I returned with more blankets, I saw that Mary had laid Jesus in the manger. Why didn't I think of that? What a clever bed for his sweet little head. I thought I heard Joseph returning, so I bid Mary good night. However, as I turned to leave the stable, I saw something quite unexpected. Joseph was returning to the stable, but he was being followed by several shepherds. Did he know any of them? Was one of them a brother or something? Why would he bring shepherds to disturb his wife and new baby so soon after being born? He asked them to wait outside, and I watched Joseph go in and say something to Mary. I didn't hear what he said, but she looked surprised. Then her face softened to one of understanding, and Mary simply said,
Let them come in. He's for them too.
Huh? I was so confused. But I also felt reverence in the air that I did not want to disturb, so I quietly stepped away as the shepherds gingerly and cautiously entered the stable, their faces full of awe and wonder.
Beautiful child, all aglow in the candlelight. See how he sleeps in a poor manger bed. Beautiful child, how the heavens adorn him. Starlight of silver and halo of gold round his head. Gloria, Gloria, angels
When I got back to the inn, my mind was whirling with all I just witnessed. My soul felt so full, and I felt like I just witnessed something I would never forget and may never even fully understand. As I stood just inside my doorway, deep in thought, I felt a chill that brought me back to the present. I realized that the shutters were open. I carefully walked around those sleeping on the floor and went to the window to close them. Before I closed them, I looked out once more at the amazing new star above me. I had a distinct feeling that the new star and the new baby in our stable were somehow connected. Both had already brought so much light into my world, and they both just appeared that night. I wanted to wake my husband, but knowing how exhausted he was, I decided to talk to him in the morning. However, I didn't even know if I could put it all into words right now. I wondered if he would even believe me. As I lay my head down on the table next to where my husband was sleeping, I was suddenly overcome with exhaustion. As I quickly drifted off to sleep and felt like I was somewhere between reality and dreams, I thought to myself, was this all a dream?
The next morning I was rolling up the bedding as our guests woke and were starting to pack their things. My wife was preparing breakfast as she excitedly told me about last night. The baby, the shepherds, the star. It was all a fantastic story, and I wasn't sure I believed it. My wife is the most genuine and honest woman I have ever met. I was not one to make up stories like this. I was just not sure what to think. As she was telling me all about it, I heard a commotion outside, so I opened my door to see what was happening. Shepherds were running back and forth through the streets, shouting excitedly. I looked at my wife, and she turned to look up at me, and we both stared at each other for a moment. I thought, could it be? Could everything my wife was just telling me be real? Is what the shepherds proclaimed true? We quickly left the other guests and ran down to the stable where this family was. We came to the stable and stood there speechless. Was what the shepherds said true? Is this truly our Savior? Who else could it be? All of these thoughts were swirling around in our heads, but we couldn't make any words come out of our mouths.
Mary and Joseph looked at our bewildered faces, and they seemed to understand. They invited us to come and sit with them, and they explained it all. The shepherds, the star, and most of all, Jesus. They proceeded to tell us all they knew of this sacred child. It all made perfect sense to me. From the moment that baby looked up into my eyes with such love and recognition, I knew there was something extraordinary about him.
as we stared with wonder at the infant face of our Savior. Our humble stable was turned into holy ground. It was a night we will never forget, a night that has changed our lives forever.
They journeyed far, a weary pair. They sought for shelter from the cold night air. Some place where she could lay her head, where she could give her babe a quiet bed. Was there no room, no corner there, in all the town a spot someone could spare? Was there no soul come to their aid? A stable bare was where the family stayed. Do you have room for the Savior? And do you seek Him anew? Have you a place for the one who lived and died for you? Are you as humble as a shepherd boy, or as wise as men of old? Would you have come that night? Would you have sought the light? Do you have room? A star arose, a wondrous light, a sign from God this was the holy night. And yet so few would go to see the babe who came to rescue you and me. This child divine is now a king, the gift of life to all the world he brings. And all mankind he saves from doom, but on the night for him there was no room. Do you have room for the Savior? And do you seek Him anew? Have you a place for the one who lived and died for you? Are you as humble as a shepherd boy, or as wise as men of old? Would you have come that night? Would you have sought the light? Do you have room? Will you come tonight? Will you seek the light? Do you have room?
We really hope that you enjoyed your time with us, and we really appreciate you coming. I'd like you to now join me in applauding and congratulating our cast and crew for an excellent job. First, I'd like to recognize our amazing narrators, Brian and Peta Corbett. We have the inn guests and the shepherds. We have Sierra and Abigail Williams, Brandy and Tom Nakpuman with their sons Nick, Max, and Lucas. And I just want to point out that our youngest shepherd here is 4 years old, Lucas. Lucas, you want to wave? He's 4. Did a great job. We also have brothers Trey and Trip Carr, Jackson Daly, siblings Rachel and Joseph Given, Shelby Henthorn, brothers Peter and Ryan Kirk. They're the brothers of our beautiful pianist that helped us in the beginning. Gracie Lewis, Hudson Ogden, and Jack Wild. Next, I want to recognize our incredible vocalists. We have Ember Ogden, who is also an in-guest, and Ward Chrisman, who is also one of our music coordinators. For our talented actors, we have Mary, played by the beautiful Lauren Miles, and Joseph, played by the equally handsome Andrew Miles. And they also did a great job on their song. And of course, our incredible Innkeeper actors, backed by popular demand for the second year.
I'm sorry, we have no room.
That would be Nick and Carla Boren. I want to recognize our talented understudies who were willing to step in at a moment's notice. If they can stand up and wave to everybody, they're over here on your right side. That is Greg and Carolyn Owen. I could not have done any of this without my wonderful friend, stage manager and assistant director, Diana Myers, and her stage assistants, Raylan Myers and Shiana Smith. Making us all sound and look so good is our tech crew, Ramil Malabago and Nathan Tolman and Andrew Tolman. We also have the Sweet Home High School AV crew or club taking video tonight. We appreciate them. There's Winona Given and Kathleen Henthorn, our production assistants, otherwise known as our stage moms or our shepherders. Appreciate them.
And my friend and our director and our author. We couldn't do it without her either. Satina Tolman.
There are many others I wish I could thank publicly, but in respect of your time, I ask you to please look in your program because there are many listed in there. Once again, we want to thank our sponsors for their generous gift to make this possible as a free gift to you. So please give them a round of applause. If any of you are here tonight, thank you so much. And finally, we want to thank you, our audience, for coming and spending this special time with us. We hope you enjoyed the show, and all of us wish all of you a very happy, safe, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.